Alright, so let's just do some quick fire analysis over on ICP, see what's going on right now. So in my last video, I was predicting that at some point we would be coming down to these lower levels. I'm personally looking at both this micro 1.618 and macro 2.618. The 2.618 is from this low to this high on this fib. This micro 1.6 is from this low to well, I've drawn it out from here, but it's to this high on the fib. So we've got two different Fibonacci's that I'm personally looking at. I'll keep those highlighted as where I do think we are going to be moving down over to in the next month, the next couple of weeks or so. But at least in the micro term, you can see from this low up to this high, we've come back and back tested your 618. So a very okay sign to be seeing in the short term. I would like to remind you that, you know, if we do put this on a, oh, did the wrong thing there. Let's see, so I think, there we go, that's back to normal. If we put this on the inverse price chart, which is something that I love to do on charts that are bearish and in price discovery to the downside, I feel like if you are emotionally invested to ICP and you're potentially seeing something that's bullish in the charts, even though it's not there, because I'm telling you there's nothing bullish in this chart whatsoever, you know, you flip the chart, your brain isn't used to looking at it, so you don't have that emotional attachment to the previous chart that we were looking at. If you look at this, pretend it's a new crypto, this was the all-time high for, let's just call it PCI instead of ICP. This was the all-time high. What did we do? We came up, we formed an all-time high, came down, made a higher low. We broke above the all-time high, back tested the all-time high, broke above the 1.618, back tested the 1.618, and we're just entering price discovery. So, you know, you've got a huge area of resistance at this 1.618 and the previous all-time high. Let me mark them as red because these are going to be some very hard levels to get over. And, you know, once again, if we do flip this on the inverse or to the regular chart, you can see until we get above this big resistance range, you know, we are still in price discovery to the downside. So this is like a baby W pattern, a baby 618 being held in an absolute, you know, shitstorm. I don't think that we should be running to the bank or getting out of bed at this moment in time for ICP whatsoever. If we break above the daily EMA ribbons on the short-term moving average and also the 1.618, $10.26, that would be an okay place to break. But like I said, if we break here and simply come back to the previous, well, it's all-time low, but on the inverse chart it was the all-time high. If we do something like this and just keep on rallying, then we wouldn't have done anything apart from retesting this low and then dipping back to lower price targets. So I think we should be very cautious on this one. You know, as long as we're not above $14.72, in my opinion, absolutely nothing's changed. I think at some point in time, we are going to have to break this massive trend line. And you might be thinking, well, surely that's a bullish thing, right? Because, you know, if we break out of this trend line, then surely it's going to be bullish. But I'm telling you for a fact that we are going to be breaking out of this by the 11th of July. Why can I tell you that as a fact? Well, because if we do not break out, we're going to be going to minus price targets at this moment in time. You can see if we go any lower, we would be in the minuses. So obviously at some point soon, we are going to be breaking out the side of this. You're not going to see ICP go to like minus $5, minus $10. It has happened for some assets like US oil recently went into the negatives, but that's simply because they had an order for oil and they needed to ship it somewhere and they didn't take it, so they just wanted someone to take it off their hands. That is not going to happen with a digital cryptocurrency asset which is not tangible, that does not take up any space or requirements to store this. So you're not going to see ICP go into the minuses, so you are going to be breaking out within the next couple of weeks. I'm telling you, within the next 3 weeks, we will be out of this. So if you do see, you know, ICP break out of this trend line, don't think, oh my gosh, ICP's breaking out of this trend line, we're finally breaking bullish, because if we don't break out of this trend line, we're going to be at zero in the next 3 weeks. So I do think ICP is heading in that direction. I don't think we're just going to go like this. and then be at zero, and then, you know, that's done. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think there's going to be a lot more chop, a lot more volatility, a lot more up and down, but mainly down. You know, you zoom out, we're clearly in a downtrend. I really don't think many people are trying to argue this as a bullish chart. If you are, then you must have this on the inverse scale by accident, because there is no way that you can say that this chart is bearish. I mean, look at this. This is a huge bull flag, higher lows, higher highs. And on that same accord, if you flip the chart, there's no way that you can say this is bullish, because it's just a straight line down and then a channel down to hell. So at some point we are going to be breaking out. Do not get out of bed when we do break out. I mean, you can get out of bed if you want, do whatever you want. But like I said, until we start pushing above $14.75, absolutely nothing has changed whatsoever. I've been doing TA on ICP since, I think it was back, no, it was further, because I started my channel in January, and I think ICP was one of the first cryptos that I started covering. I either started covering it at $36 or $24, and now we're down here at, you know, basically $2, below $2. I'm still sticking with my my guns on this one. I do think we are going to go much lower. Oh, sorry, we're at $8 rather. This 190 was this this horizontal ray down here. So we're just below $8. I still think we're going lower. If we break above 1480, 1475, so be it. I'll give you an update on that one. But as far as I can tell, ICP is extremely bearish against the US dollar, and it's extremely bearish against Bitcoin, which doesn't make any sense to me. Why would anyone hold this? People say that it's got good fundamentals, so be it. But if you're taking on a bunch of extra risk by holding altcoins, because that's what you're doing, it's much more safe to just hold Bitcoin. If you're holding altcoins, you're taking on a bunch of extra risk, and I understand why you're taking on extra risk, because you want extra reward, but that only works if your altcoin is outperforming Bitcoin. If you're buying an altcoin like ICP that is not outperforming Bitcoin, you are not only looking at a chart that's telling you, hey, if you invest in this chart, you're going to lose money, but you're also investing in an asset or a cryptocurrency that is, you know, 1,000 times more risky than Bitcoin. ICP is 1,000,000 more times risky than Bitcoin, but people are still buying it, even though ICP is not doing as well as Bitcoin. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. We're literally watching ICP against Bitcoin go to zero. We're watching ICP against the US dollar go to zero, and people are still buying it over Bitcoin, which makes absolutely zero sense to me. If you simply bought Bitcoin yesterday, a week ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, and you held Bitcoin instead of ICP, you'd be up like 99.999%, because I'm pretty sure ICP is, you know, I exaggerated a tiny bit, I'm sorry, it's at 98.73%, and, you know, before, the reason I said 99 is because we were down at 99 here. So we may be having a bounce right now. Look at things in the macro term, we're clearly still bearish. Tons of bearish volume coming in, and it really doesn't look like there's any end in sight. At some point we're going to break out of this, because like I said, if we don't, we'll be at zero. That's really all I've got. Stay cautious. If you are trading altcoins right now, I definitely recommend to check out how your altcoin is performing against Bitcoin, because if you're taking on a ton of extra risk by buying altcoins, you want them to outperform Bitcoin. Otherwise, what is the point? You might as well just buy Bitcoin. And you might also argue that at some point ICP is going to outperform Bitcoin, and I don't know if I agree with you on that one, but I would at least say, if you are going to be right on that one, then ICP has to break out against this descending resistance on the Bitcoin pair. Obviously, it's not going to go up without taking out this level first. So if you do think ICP is going to outperform Bitcoin, why not simply look at the ICP BTC chart, realize we're in a massive, like, year-long landslide to the downside, and then just say, okay, if I sit on the sideline, you know, if you sat on the sideline from here all the way down to here, you'd be getting a 69% discount. Why don't you just sit on the sidelines for a little bit longer? Potentially we could come down to the 1.618, and then maybe we could break out. You get a 31% discount. Either way, if you've been DCAing ICP at any point other than today while it's up 2%, then you've been taking an L, because ICP against Bitcoin is just completely landsliding. If you bought here, 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 or even if you bought around here, you are getting wrecked against the Bitcoin pair. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. That is all I've got for ICP. Best of luck if you plan on trading it anyway, but, you know, like I said, I would definitely be waiting for some more macro reversal signs like 1482 to be broken. That's all I've got for ICP. Best of luck. As always, Cowboy out. Peace.